Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be trying to show you how to install the QRadar Community Edition appliance to VMware Workstation. What will be the settings? I have tried and failed a couple of times while basically installing, because there isn't any video or guideline about installing the 7.5 as of today. So if you want to create a VM in VMware Workstation to install the QRadar appliance, these will be the settings. So first of all, I have already installed it, but I will show you the steps to create the VM, because that's the challenging part. After that, all you have to do is just press Y and just type yes in some of the situations, but installation part is quite easy rather than creating the VM, because this is the most important part. Because if you fail, then QRadar won't be installed, or the Linux machine, Red Hat machine will not basically start. So I will go to my here file, new virtual machine, and we will be trying the custom advanced one. Okay, not the typical one. Next, and then you don't need to change here. Whatever you are basically using, it will be okay, compatible. And then what we are going to do is I'll install the operating system later. So you need to use this, okay, and then next, and then the guest operating system will be Linux. Okay, we're telling VMware to, hey, this will be a Linux, and the version will be Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 64-bit. Okay, make sure that these are also selected. And next, you can change the machine name, and then you can also modify the location. I'm not gonna change anything yet. And then it will ask for the processor configuration, and here QRadar recommends that you need at least 8 CPUs and 24 gigabytes of RAM, but in real you don't need that much power to run the virtual machine. But again, since I had a lot of cores available right now, as you can see 32, I gave 8 cores, but as of now, since I'm not gonna start the machine, I'll just, let's say 4. Now here the recommended amount of RAM is 24 gigabytes, but in my first installation, as you can see, I have the QRadar machine here. 16 gigabytes was enough to run the QRadar appliance, virtual machine, however you may want to call. So 16 is okay. If you have more RAM, of course, it will run with more RAM better, basically. So 16 gigabytes next. And this is okay. It can use NAT based on your basically based on your configuration, network configuration. But I want to use it as a NAT because I want to access the QRadar appliance from my machine and to configure it. And also the other virtual machines are also in the NAT section, so they can also talk, they can also send logs to QRadar. It's because it's a laboratory, it doesn't matter. Basically, I'm not gonna run the malware here. All I want is to try and build a QRadar environment. This is my project. Okay, NAT is okay. And LSI logic, you don't need to select anything rather than this. Now the most important part of this video is virtual disk type needs to be SATA. Okay, it needs to be SATA. VMware automatically selects NVMe for you, but it needs to be SATA. It's like, for example, if you set the hardware for 300 gigabytes, QRadar is going to have that 300 gigabytes. But if you set it to NVMe, and if you say, for example, 300, if you give 300 gigabytes, it will not work because it doesn't allocate all that resource at once. VMware gives you more resources once you create more data in that virtual machine. That's why. But if you set it to SATA, it will allocate that space and probably use a new virtual disk. Okay. And again, an important part here is that allocate all disk space now. This is very important. In this configuration, I have failed a couple of times, probably 6 times I failed, but at the end, I found the right configuration at the end of the day. And you want to store the virtual disk as a single file. This is also important. And allocate all disk space now. Store virtual disk as a single file, and at the end it will tell you, hey, these are the specs that I'm going to create this virtual machine. And if I say finish, it will be creating this virtual machine with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 4 CPU cores, and the hard disk, I didn't change it, but it needs to be at least 300 gigabytes recommended by the IBM QRadar experts. And you will basically start the virtual machine, but here is a catch. Let me cancel this. When you start the virtual machine, you want to use this ISO file, because while creating the virtual machine, we didn't use the QRadar ISO file, right? The community edition file we didn't use yet. In order to use that file, basically we will add the ISO file as a CD DVD SATA. How are you going to do this? Basically right click and then settings, and in the settings there should be a CD DVD SATA section in the hardware, and instead of using this, use physical drive auto detect. If you use that, it's not going to run the Linux machine or run the QRadar appliance. It will not find any machine at all. Probably you need to select this, use ISO image file, and then basically locate the file, browse it, and then click OK. And if you power the virtual machine, it will be running the QRadar appliance for you. It will install QRadar and other libraries and all the things related to the Red Hat Linux machine as well. If you find this information useful, make sure to share and publish. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can also create this QRadar environment. I have been a security analyst for years. I have used QRadar for years, but I haven't had the chance to create my own environment and play with it. I used as an analyst, but I didn't use as a engineer to set it up and basically installing agents, creating services in QRadar, because QRadar is a big, very nasty product. Even installing an agent has a big documentation here, as you can see. This is the documentation for installing a WinCollect agent to collect Windows events or events from a Windows machine. But for example, if you compare that with a EDR agent, you basically run it and enter the site ID and press enter, and that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.